Hi, and good evening to our fifth episode, I believe, of this run of the Between. Um, my name's David. I'll be running the game this evening. We're down a couple of people this evening, so we'll just be running with Jose and El, but it should be good fun regardless. So if you haven't watched any episodes before this, we are playing The Between, which is a PBTA game of Gothic Monster Hunters in Victorian London, by Jason Cordova and published by The Gauntlet. You can find information on the game itself down below. And this game's been run through the Gauntlet community. We've got an online calendar where you can sign up to play games like this one and others. We also have a number of podcasts, as well as a gaming magazine called Codex, and some published games as well. You can find information on all that stuff at the gauntlet-rpg.com. Again, I'll put a link to that down below. If you want more information on any of that I've just said about, check one of the earlier episodes, and I'll go into it in a bit more detail. So yeah, as I said, we are down a couple of players this evening, but I will ask you both to introduce yourselves and who you'll be playing this evening, as ever, as well as if there's anything about what happened last time you want to go over again. So Jose, I'll start with you as ever, if that's okay.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Jose, and my pronouns are he and him. And I'm playing Lady Camila, and her pronouns are she, her. And Lady Camila plays the Explorer handbook, which is someone who has come from great wealth, from the aristocracy of Britain. And she has experience exploring overseas and in the colonies, where she has had adventures. We've heard some of them already, and we may hear more coming forward. But she's returned to London to work with Hargrave House and deal with supernatural threats to crown and country. And last time, the group resolved a threat with a child vampire, and managed to, although it was dicey going there a couple of moments, managed to bring them in to the fold, and bring them under the power of Hargrave House, at least for the moment. Hopefully it won't turn around and bite us on the ass. But we have a child vampire, maybe living in Hargrave House, but someplace in our keep. And yeah, that's what happened last time, or that I recall.
That's brilliant. No, thank you very much. And Elle.
Hi, I'm Elle. Pronouns are she, her. I'm playing Fujisawa, the factotum, also she, her. Fujisawa is kind of on the opposite spectrum of Lady Camila, as far as class goes, at least. And she is in the employ of our vessel, Priyanka, who's not with us today. Last time, Fujisawa had a run-in with the cannibalistic serial killer Obert Feg, which was a lot of fun for me, not so much for her. And she also participated in kind of bringing the Limehouse Lurker, our child vampire, to heal. So yeah, that's where she's at right now.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So as is usual, we'll kind of start with our cleaning up of the dawn phase from last time. So I believe certainly everyone present has resolved all of the mask prompts that they've kind of done to this point. We didn't end up marking the Mask of the Pig last time, did we? I don't think.
I don't think so.
No, cool. So we don't have any of that to do. Obviously, if you do want to switch around your dawn questions, then feel free to do so. Particular self-Fujisawa, obviously we won't have your employer in play today. So if you want to pick some different ones, that's cool. So once we've done that, I don't think we have any other. Oh no, wait. I'm just.
I do have a playbook.
You do indeed, yeah. That's what I was just checking in. And yes, you do indeed have Memory as the Servant. So yeah, I can't remember if we've seen this one in play yet, so I'll just read it out quickly. But yeah, during the dawn phase, you may tell the keeper you are claiming a memento, which could be any object from a scene in the recently concluded night phase, which you would have reasonably been able to acquire. If you keep the memento at your personal quarters, if you give the memento to another hunter, mark XP and tell them to add it to their personal quarters.
So I think in the chapel at the Limehouse School where we resolved the Limehouse Lurker, Fujisawa picked up a bronze crucifix, sort of largish, but like still small enough to carry around and fit in the hand. And I think what caught her eye about it is that the little kind of figure of Jesus on the crucifix, instead of the sort of look of agony and intense pain and pathos that you would expect, this particular statuette has this sort of curious, enigmatic smile on his face as he hangs on the cross. And for various reasons, this reminds Fujisawa of Lady Camila. So I think she's going to give it to her for her personal quarters.
It's a very thoughtful gift. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Awesome. So with that, we will, in fact, I'll just bring up the dawn phase thing to check I'm not missing anything. I think most of this is stuff, cleaning up stuff we've already done. No, that's cool. So we will move into the day phase.
Can I ask a couple of questions before
we no, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I took an advance from last time. I moved a stat. But I have a question about stats because I'm trying to understand them.
Yeah, certainly.
Especially a question about sensitivity. I don't let's see. What did I write here? Yeah, so when I was thinking about sensitivity with respect to Lady Camila, I was thinking that she isn't really attuned to the supernatural in the sense of like being psychic or being sensitive in that sense, and so she relies on others for those kinds of things. Yeah. But so that was how it was working fictionally in my head, and so she has a -1 there. But I am curious about the way sensitivity works when we're dealing with a supernatural creature. Like, it sounds like it kind of trumps other stats. Like, say I don't know, trying to hit a werewolf with a baseball bat or something. Is that vitality, or does that then become sensitivity because it's a werewolf and not a thug?
Yeah, that's right. Generally speaking, those sort of roles will default to sensitivity when you're dealing with an overtly supernatural creature. There are some playbook moves that mess with that, and also obviously if you want to come up with a custom move that messes with that as well, that's cool. But yeah, in general, those sort of roles will tend to come down to sensitivity rather than the normal stat.
Okay. All right. So again, sensitivity becomes important because we're going to be dealing with. I mean, I don't want to power game it or anything, but that's what is going on in my head. Sensitivity becomes really important, and having a -1 might not be good in the long run for me. Okay. Yeah. So that was one question I had. Thank you. Oh, the day and the night phase. How literal are they? And what I mean by that is, sometimes I have an image of a scene that I want to do that would fictionally take place at night, but I would want to have more space, a more expansive room to role play it. Can I still do it during the day phase technically, even though it happens at night, or are those really strict in terms of their literal interpretation?
So in general, those will be yeah, again, in general, it's like relatively literal. Obviously we can play about with play about with it a little bit. But yeah, no, if you are interested in playing out a longer scene or like a more involved scene in the night phase, that's fine. That's not a problem. It's just obviously kind of that will, you know, all being equal, that will probably be kind of the only thing you get up to that night phase sort of thing, just in a framing things out kind of way sort of thing. But yeah.
Could I do something like, okay, during the day phase, I want to do this scene that, well, I can just fix the fiction basically to make it a day scene, because that's what I would want to do, is put it in the day scene and let the night scene be kind of fast paced and hard. I wouldn't want to try to interrupt that rhythm. I just, yeah. Okay. And then the last question I had is about the Dawn questions about the mastermind. Am I just setting us up both for frustration, or should I just leave that question out because it's too kind of, I don't know, it feels like it's kind of strong arming you into doing something, and at the same time it kind of it feels frustrating when I have it up for twice and I don't get it, I don't get a meeting, and so I feel like maybe I should just give up on that question, or
I mean, in fairness, like if you want to be like proactive with like meeting the mastermind, that's cool. I will try and bring them in as well when appropriate. But yeah, no, like I said as well, if you do want to be, again, particularly like I said, during like the day phase, if you want to be proactive in going out and speaking with the mastermind, that's absolutely cool. That's the thing you can do.
So I could ask for him to be in a scene.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
all right, that helps. All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Awesome. So I am going to introduce a new threat for today. So this will be the creature of Cremorne Gardens. That ever-reliable rag, the Illustrated Police News, has lately been carrying stories about the so-called creature of Cremorne Gardens, sometimes called the creature of Chelsea Harbour, and more rarely, the creature of Cheney Walk. The creature, described as a fish-like thing or a fishman, has been terrorizing pleasure seekers from the shadows, giving a fright when glimpsed skulking about, but rarely making direct contact. Men and women alike have been lured to the end of a nearby pier by a strange song while promenading, though with no memory of how they got there once the song's spell ended. All of this could easily be chalked up to hysteria, or perhaps some elaborate hoax by someone who resents Cremorne Gardens. If not for a physical attack upon a young couple, Simon Piedmont and Beulah Thrum. Mr. Piedmont and Ms. Thrum described how the creature leapt at them from a crouched position, like a cat, and tore at Miss Thrum's coat. Scotland Yard is investigating. So I'm going to ask, I think this one is probably going to go to, in theory, it could go to either, but I think this is probably more a Fujisawa question. You have a connection to Thomas Simpson, the proprietor of Cremorne Gardens, having worked there one summer. What was your job and what did you do to lose it?
It's a really interesting question. I think her job was, I think at some point at Cremorne Gardens, they had what they called like the Japanese pavilion. This was a thing in Victorian England, although I don't think it was set up at Cremorne Gardens specifically. But basically, it was like a little mini quote unquote Japanese village where they had actors like kind of pretending to live their lives as regular Japanese people and like artisans and things like that, like a mini like kind of Epcot experience. And I think Fujisawa briefly worked there as like maybe, you know, her role was a potter or something, something that she had no actual skill in, but which she was good at pretending to do. And why did she lose it? I think that she had a flirtation with Thomas Simpson's daughter that he did not take very well to. And once he got wind of it, he axed Fujisawa right away.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. So, and actually, I don't think this is actually mentioned in the blurb specifically. But yeah, Cremorne Gardens is essentially it's a pleasure gardens. It's there's kind of a Victorian style theme park is in some ways probably the best way of understanding it, but there's various entertainments present there that people can go and pay some money to go and do various things. We'll understand more about it when we get in there, but no, that's great. Thank you very much. So for this threat, I'll add all this information to the keeper shortly, but it has another threshold question, which is the creature real or is it a hoax, which is a complexity 4 question. Depending on whether you decide the creature is real or a hoax will then determine which of the next questions you answer, which are, if it is real, what does the creature want? That's complexity 4 as well. And that will allow you to resolve the threat by luring the creature to you, then either destroying it or convincing it to go back to wherever it came from. And if it's not real, then the question is who perpetrates the hoax and why? And that's a complexity of 4, and that will allow you to resolve the threat by laying a trap for the perpetrator and unmasking them. There is also a mask available for this threat, the Mask of Revelry. Awesome. So with that, I will throw over my usual question of what do you want to get up to during the day phase today? I will point out specifically in this case that Fujisawa is only able to request vulnerable scenes with Priyanka, though Lady Camila, if you wish to request a vulnerable scene with Fujisawa, you are able to do so. And that can use either of your vices, that's fine, but you get to decide whether or not you have a vulnerable scene or not. Fujisawa cannot ask you for one.
Got it. Well, on that note, maybe it would be fun to have a vulnerable scene with Fujisawa. I was thinking, I don't know if Fujisawa might want to come to a boxing match with me, where we might be able to explore both of our vices. So that's one thing that's on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that's on my mind is maybe going to see one of my Royal Explorer Club cronies, Lady Cressida, to find out something more about Fig's pigs. So those are the two things that are kind of on my mind.
The boxing match sounds great to me. And while you're seeing Lady Cressida, I might go do something with my Harvey Pass informals, which is my new move that I took.
Mm.
Awesome, that sounds cool. So yeah, I guess then, well, I guess if we want to start framing up that scene at the boxing match, and then we can decide whose vice we feel it plays more into, and then we can determine that then. So yeah, we've actually, I don't think, seen this move much yet, so I will just quickly read through it again. So yeah, the vulnerable move is when you have an intimate moment with another hunter while one of you is engaged in your vice, you may clear an appropriate condition. If it's your vice, you can also stumble on a clue, and you come up with that entirely and tell me what it is. Obviously, also you do have to tell me which threat it is for, and it cannot conclusively answer a question by its like existence. But other than that, you can kind of come up with what you want. Or you can invite the other hunter to ask you about your past, to which you must answer truthfully, but not necessarily completely. But yeah, with that said, I will let you, the two of you, frame up that scene at the boxing match, and we'll see how it plays out.
So I imagine that maybe it's over breakfast, since we tend to start things over breakfast. Lady Camila inquires about Miss Balakwa's health, because Miss Balakwa went through something during the capture of the lurker, and is probably still retired in her bed chambers. And Lady Camila says, Fujisawa, if you are free today, I have a bit of a recreational activity that I'd love to share with you. After the intensity of last night, I think we could use a little bit of fun.
I think as you're saying this, Fujisawa is clearing away your breakfast plate. And we see her pause and sort of cock her head to the side, like standing behind you. And she says very tentatively, what manner of fun did you have in mind? Because she's seen your gentleman callers come to the house, and she knows what your idea of fun is.
It's an excellent question. I have plans to attend a boxing match. A bare-knuckled boxing match this afternoon. Quite exciting stuff. And I thought, for some reason, it occurred to me that you might want to come with me.
We see like the tension sort of flow out of Fujisawa as she, takes a deep breath. That could be arranged, especially with Miss Balakwa indisposed today. May I ask who's fighting? Not that I know much about it. I'm just curious.
As I recall, there will be 3 fights, but the one that everyone is talking about is between... Oh, help me out here. Sean the Brawn and and the Terror of Limehouse, maybe? Or yeah, go ahead. You have an idea. Sean
No, the Terror of Limehouse sounds frightening. I love that.
One thing though, Fujisawa, if you do come with, we need to dress in a way that wouldn't call too much attention to ourselves. Women are not normally welcome at these events. So, if you would be willing to put on a little bit of man's garb, a little bit of masquerade with me, I think we'd be less obtrusive and could enjoy the event more. And she raises her eyebrows.
I think Fujisawa also raises an eyebrow. But she's already started calculating in her head how much she could win if she puts all of her savings right now on the Terror of Limehouse.
She's calculating odds.
Yeah. So she'll just kind of politely nod. Yes, well, I will need your help with that.
Of course.
But I trust that you know how to blend in at these events.
Of course, dear. Follow my lead. You do that so well. And I think you will slip in unnoticed. And I think, and she eyes Fujisawa's size up in her mind, Yes, I think one of my gentlemen callers is about your same size, and there is some clothing here that I think I could share with you. Let's get to it, shall we? So that we can be ready in time for the brawl.
As you wish, Lady Camila.
Oh, yay. You are so accommodating, Fujisawa. Thank you. And so I assume that I guess we cut, and I think we see them coming down the stairs of Hargrave House in their drag. Lady Camilla with a big smile on her face, and I don't know what's going on in Fujisawa's mind.
I think that Fujisawa has a different sort of confidence in this getup that Lady Camilla has outfitted her with. First, there's like more like kind of physical freedom in this like waistcoat and men's trousers and in her kimono. But I think there's also the kind of freedom of not looking like herself and not feeling like she has to behave like herself. So I think instead of her usual kind of walking, 3 paces behind, she is kind of strutting confidently right next to Lady Camilla in lockstep as they step out into Belgrave Square.
Mm-hmm. So I assume they would step into a hansom cab and be taken over to, I think it's a warehouse space, maybe in Vauxhall, near the Royal Gas Works. So big, dark, even though during the day, the space inside is darkened. And I imagine stepping into this space and big warehouse space packed with people, men of all social classes. And there's like a din to the crowd and kind of a musky smell of like aggression and fear and excitement.
I think Lady Camilla might notice that Fujisawa doesn't seem put off by any of this at all. In fact, she seems sort of energized by it. And I think even shortly after we arrive, Fujisawa might disappear for a few moments as she goes to, find the bookie and put in her bed.
Yeah, and as Fujisawa peels away, Lady Camilla says, "Yes, dear, I will meet you in a moment. Up there, we'll have a good view there, and not be too squished in the crowd. We'll have a perfect view of all the proceedings." And she goes up to some area in the back where there maybe it's like a kind of bleachery kind of thing where she can look over everything without being in the press of the crowd.
Is this like a special area kind of reserved for the upper class or for people who might have spent money reserving a spot?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she makes like a hand signal to someone, and maybe it's cordoned off somehow. But most of the people want to be up close to the fight anyway. So, but this gives a nice view from above.
And Fujisawa will uh, meet Lady Camilla there soon after. Her pockets slightly lighter for now, at least. Hopefully not for too long.
I'm curious, did Fujisawa is the Terror of Limehouse is that the long shot, or is that the more or is it Sean the Brawn that's the long shot? Did she put the money down on the long shot?
I think she typically does, but the Terror of Limehouse really, it doesn't sound like someone you bet against. And I think he's like favored to win today. So
Yeah,
she's played
Sean
it safe.
LeBron, I just imagine is a big kind of Viking type with red hair, balding red with red hair, and yeah, lumberjack kind of looking. Uh, what's the terror of Limehouse look like though?
I think he's not particularly like physically imposing. Like you wouldn't look at him and say like, "Oh, that guy's the terror of Limehouse," right? But when he's in the ring, like what he's known for, he's like really scrappy, really fast, and is good at ducking and weaving and choosing the right moments to go in for the kill. He plays like a very psychological game in the ring, and that's what wins him fights.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And I imagine, so I guess there's a couple fights, and then, but I imagine that when the big fight starts, the crowd just goes crazy, and I imagine Lady Camila turning to Fujisawa and saying, "Look at them, Fujisawa." And the camera shifts like to close-ups of all the faces of the crowd, yelling and baring their teeth and clapping each other on the back. See how witnessing this brutal fight for dominance releases something deep and primal from their inner being, something pent up and restrained by the tenuous trappings of civilization. But here, it is given permission to emerge. Here they can abandon themselves to the intoxicating eroticism of their shared aggression. They can drop all pretense and propriety. You look how they surge over one another in waves to get closer to the combatants. And you see the camera cut to like a punch to the face with blood spraying over the faces of the spectators.
I think,
Safe. Go for it. Yeah.
and I was going to say that I think as Lady Camila is saying this, we see Fujisawa kind of leaning in, her eyes like narrowed, kind of trying to catch every single like micro movement of these fighters in the ring. And as like Lady Camila is saying about sort of primal urges that come out, Fujisawa has this like smile on her face that like looks almost like a snarl, and there's like this glint of like latent bloodthirst almost in her eyes. She's like clenching her fists, like, come on, come on.
Come on, terror.
Yeah. And I think actually the terror is losing, right? Like he started strong, but maybe like made some fatal error and has like yet to come back from it. And we can see that on his face, right? The sort of the confusion, the desperation at like kind of trying to get his head back in the game. And what was it, Sean LeBron?
Sean LeBron, yeah.
Yeah. He's just like pure brute strength, right? And that seems to be the winning strategy today.
And I imagine that like the sound cuts out and all you see is this montage of like extreme close-ups of like blood and fists and gaping mouths and flying spit, and Lady Camilla's kind of steady eyes coolly watching it all, and Fujisawa's fists bunched up. And then do you want to call the match, Fuji?
Yeah, I think the last thing we see of the match is Sean LeBron surging forward with this like kind of meat tenderizer of a fist headed right for the terror's face. And typically the terror is like nimble. It's almost like he predicts what his opponent will do before they do it, before they even know what they're going to do. But the terror has managed to psych himself out today, and I think he dodges just a split second too late, and we see the fist make contact with the terror's mouth. Perhaps we see like a slow motion shot of like a tooth sailing out into the crowd for some lucky fan to catch, I suppose.
Loud crack.
Yeah, and the terror goes down like a sack of bricks.
And the crowd roars for Sean the Brawn.
And Fujisawa also roars, but in frustration. And then turns to Lady Camila and says very demurely, excuse me.
Oh, yes. By all means, Fujisawa, take your time.
And I think we see Fujisawa. I think she gets up and she'll kind of muscle her way through this crowd, and we see her go back out behind the warehouse and just like let out this like scream because she just bet all of the money that she won the last time at the races on the terror, and he did not come through. And this is what always happens, right? Like she's up and then suddenly she's down, and the cycle never gets easier.
And as Fujisawa is there panting after her scream, there's a voice that comes from the doorway, and it's Lady Camila, who actually followed Fujisawa. It says, "My dear, are you sure you're quite all right? That was quite a roar."
And Fujisawa turns and her face is all red, both from just the like surge of emotions and from like embarrassment now that Lady Camila has seen her this way. Yes, sorry, I think the energy inside of the warehouse got to me. I'm sorry you had to see me like this.
I'm not. It's invigorating to see so much emotion and passion from you. I watched you during the fight. I had never seen such expressions on your face. It was thrilling.
Well, my job as Miss Balakwa's assistant is not to be passionate and certainly not to be thrilling.
Well, then I'm glad that Miss Balak was not here right now, so that I could have the privilege of witnessing your passion.
Could I ask you something, Lady Camila? If I may, you have always struck me as someone who is always in control, is never put on the back foot, someone who lives with no regrets. How do you do it?
It may appear that I live with no regrets, but that's not altogether accurate. What is true, though, is that I have decided to throw myself into life and not hold myself back. And that perhaps comes through as a reckless confidence, perhaps. But
No, not reckless. Certainly very powerful, but not reckless.
You flatter me, my dear. I hope I am not reckless with the well-being of my comrades, of you and the other hunters of Hargrave House. I have a great respect for you all, and love even. Thank you so much for coming on this excursion with me. I know it has been trying. I hope you had some fun in all of this. And
It was an excellent first outing to a boxing match. And even as she says it, it sounds like hollow, like a completely obvious lie. But she'll just go with it.
well, I do hope it's not our last outing together.
I would very much like for that to be true.
Awesome.
I think we can cut the scene there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, yeah, no, that sounds good. So,
Is there a roll or no?
no, there's no role. We do kind of have to decide whose vice was being indulged in here, and I think it's definitely kind of a bit of both. I'm tempted to say this felt maybe closer to Fujisawa's vice in general, but I'm open to negotiation on that.
Sure. That's fine with me.
Cool. So yeah, in which case you both get to clear a condition as appropriate.
Let's see, what do I have?
So if you think you kind of that you kind of can justify clearing one of your vices through that scene, that's cool, and you may do so, both of you, that is. And then Fujisawa, you get to decide whether you discover a clue, and again you get to name what that is, or you can invite Lady Camila to ask a question about your past.
I think I'm going to take a clue. So I think we got some good insight into the characters in that scene anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll clear unprepared. So I think Fujisawa is kind of asking Lady Camila for advice on how to, move through life with more confidence.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Thinking about the clue. We have the St. Petersburg mirror, figs, pegs, and
we will have also the creature of Cremorne Gardens as well, which I haven't actually added to the list yet, but I will do so now.
Just so you know, Elle, I think when I go to visit Lady Cressida, I'm going to get stuff on pigs, just so you know.
Okay, yeah.
I got 2 clues on pigs, so.
That's helpful to know. I think I'll do a creature of Cremorne Gardens clue.
Awesome.
I think that on Sean LeBron's bulging bicep, there was a freshly inked tattoo of some kind of, sea creature that looks very similar to the descriptions of the creature of Cremorne Gardens.
Awesome. That's cool. I like that. Perfect. Yeah, so thank you for that. So yeah, in which case, we'll go to you. In fact, Lady Camila, you said you were interested in visiting one of your contacts.
Yeah, do you want me to go first, or should Fujisawa?
Yeah, no, I'm cool for you to go first if you'd like.
All right. Yeah, so I was Lady Camila would like to visit Lady Cressida Bachelor Howes, who's an expert on antiquities and the ancient world. And she's also a former explorer and the current chair of the Antiquities Department at the University of London. I think I had a picture of her somewhere. I can't remember. I might be able to find it. But anyways, so I imagine Lady Camila would be going to her office in at the university. Oh wait, here I'll put the image in that I found for her.
Oh, cool.
It's going to be Helena Bonham Carter because I like her. So I imagine that Lady Cressida is a little bit younger than Lady Camila. So I suppose the scene could open with Lady Camila walking into Lady Cressida's office at the university.
Yeah, sure thing. And I think we see Lady Cressida is, I think, yeah, in her office. It's a fairly small, cramped office with papers everywhere. And she is kind of leaning over a clay figurine. She's kind of dusting at it with a little like shaving brush type thing with one hand, while she has a cigarette in a extravagantly long cigarette holder in the other. And she will look up and say, "Oh, Cami, darling, lovely to see you again. Do come in, please. Take a seat." And she'll kind of clamp the cigarette holder between her teeth and move like a stack of dusty tomes off of a chair.
And Lady Camilla swoops in, gives her a kiss on the cheek and says, "Oh, Cressida, it's been much too long. I'm so glad we're seeing each other." And plops herself down into the chair next to Lady Cressida.
Yes, indeed. How did that how did your last trip go? I can't remember if we've spoken since.
Oh, lots of business last trip. You mean overseas?
Yes, of course.
Lots of business, tying up Malcolm's bauxite mines and processing aluminum, and quite dreary business, actually. Not much of the exploration that was giving me so much energy before. And so I've been putzing about in London since then. Here and there, getting involved in all sorts of things with Hargrave's house. I did read your latest treatise, my dear, the one on Inanna and the in ancient Sumeria, the cult of Inanna. Oh, quite racy. I'm not surprised that some of the antiquity scholars took offense at some of your conclusions.
Well, of course, they're always gunning for my seat, but I've managed to hold them off so far, and I hope to be able to do so for the foreseeable future. But so bunch of stuffed shirts who wouldn't know a fertility goddess if it. Well, I mean, you can imagine.
If it spread their legs for them.
Indeed.
Yes, they're not, antiquity scholars are not known for their strong constitutions. So yes, I think you shocked them.
Too busy with their Grecian boys.
I did run into the Chancellor the other day, though, and I put in a good word. And said that your treatise was groundbreaking and that those old fuddy-duddies were a thing of the past and that you were the new the new wave in antiquities, so to speak, if you'll excuse the oxymoron.
Well, thank you for your kind words, my dear. Well, of course, um, I always appreciate you putting in a good word. And she'll kind of sit back on the edge of her desk and take a long drag on the cigarette and say, "But I'm sure you didn't come here just to talk about the deathly boring world of university politics. Is there anything I can do for you?"
Well, yes, down to business, of course, Cressida. We are working on a case involving some rather misguided individuals who've taken up cannibalism in the name of the ancient Celtic god of Moch. And I was wondering if there was anything you could tell me about this god and his followers that might be useful in tracking down these strange cultists. They are causing a bit of a stir, eating people, putting them in pies, things like that. Things that we really can't have in a civilized society.
Well, no, indeed. Yes, Mock. Breton, I believe. Fantastic crepes, but no, I'm sure I have some. Bear with me one moment, and she will kind of head over to a sort of card index and start flicking through animatedly. And I think at that point we'll go over to yourself, Fujisawa. And you were saying you were thinking of consulting with the irregulars.
Yes, I think so. One of Fujisawa's contacts is Pig's Ear, a pickpocket, and I think he operates mostly around the East End, kind of preying on unsuspecting consumers at various shops and things. So he would have probably, hung around the Figs Pie shop to steal from their customers. So she's going to go check in with him to see if he's seen anything strange.
Awesome. Yeah. So you can make a roll with presence for that. I think it is presence. And we'll see how that goes.
So that's a 5.
Okay, so on a miss, word gets back to you that they are dead from violence consumption or worse. Cross them off the list. So I think that you start asking around about Pig's Ear. And yes, indeed, word comes back that he's not been seen around recently. He disappeared mysteriously. Actually, it was kind of, he's always been he's a pickpocket. He comes and goes and so on and so forth. But it's been like noticeable that he's gone missing. And then, as you're kind of like describing him to someone, you suddenly remember the distinctive tattoo he had, and it reminds you that the tattoo that the professor described on the meat he found in his pie was awfully similar to that. Of course, if you wish, you can spend a mask to bump that to a 7 to 9, or we can leave it as is with Pig's Ear having been found his way into one of the Fig's pies.
Poor Pig's Ear. But I think he shall remain dead. So I think we got the shot of Fujisawa walking through the crowds in the East End, trying to figure out where to go next to look for Pig's Ear. It's not like him to disappear. He's too greedy to stay away from pickpocketing for too long. And then she just sort of stops, and we see this like look of realization and horror dawn on her face. And she's still in drag, right? She's still in her men's outfit. And I think at this point, maybe she's like across the street from the Figs Pie shop, and we just see her like turn toward it as she like feels her heart beating faster in her chest. She sort of has the urge to go in.
Cool. So I think we'll take our first quick break there. If we want to come back at we'll come back about 5 past, give or take, and then we'll pick things up again. Then. But yeah, see you all in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
Cool. Welcome back, everyone. I will kick us off. Oh, no, wait, I didn't stop us recording, so hello. We will have a brief dead period in that recording, but no worries. Awesome. So, in which case, we will jump back in with. Yes, I think we will jump back in with Lady Camila as Lady Cresta kind of emerges from the kind of card catalogue with a couple of references that she's scribbled down. And she says, yes, Moch, the as you say, known as the He Sao, a pagan pig deity associated with abundance and gluttony and so on and so forth, but whose beneficence can be bought with sacrifice, human sacrifice obviously being a popular form thereof, as it frequently is. As to what concrete things I can tell you about, that might relate to your cult, and she'll kind of again glance down at the notes. I obviously can provide you with some references that might give a little more detail than I can go into right now. But one thing to be aware of, the red clothing is associated with Moch. Whether that is for the priesthood or the sacrifices is honestly a little difficult to tell in the sources. And from what I can tell, the distinction between the two is perhaps not as firm as one might hope if one were a member of that particular clergy.
Fascinating. What commitment to their priesthood they must have.
Indeed. Self-sacrifice, if not fully to the point of the sacrifice of one's life, certainly seems to be a key part of the worship of this particular deity. The other thing, there is a constant reference to the mortification of the flesh and so on and so forth, in contrast with the earthly delights that the god offers. A frequent sign of the worship of Moch was a skeleton, a human skeleton, posed, dressed in finery to, I think, represent the connection between great abundance and eventual death.
Well, that cannot be argued with. We all go to the same place in the end, my dear.
Indeed, though hopefully most of us manage to avoid the intestines on the way.
Hopefully, yes. And Lady Camila takes the note card from Lady Cressida and just says, well, this will be some soothing bedtime reading from me tonight.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you should be able to, if not in the library here, they should have some over at the the British Library if you do want to get the full texts.
So helpful, as always, Cressida. We must find time, not about business, to sit down and have a cup of tea someday soon.
That would be lovely, of course. Do send word, and I'm sure I'll be able to make time to come and see you.
Well, carry on with your important work, and we will see each other soon.
Thank you. Do take care, Lady Camila.
Kiss, kiss. Should I put those clues in, or?
Oh no, it's okay. I'm just typing those
Good.
now. So,
Okay,
so yes, that's red clothing and a skeleton dressed in finery as potential clues. Awesome. And I think Fujisawa, as you are stood watching the pie shop, you will notice probably first by the eye-watering smell that they have about them. But a young street urchin will kind of walk up next to you and say, "What's she watching the figs place for? You a copper?"
I think before she notices the urchin, we see like we get a shot from like Fujisawa's perspective looking at the shop. Little Figs Pig sign waving in the wind, and there's like a sort of ghostly whispering in her ears that said, you know, go in. But like sort of the soundtrack cuts out at the moment that this urchin appears, and Fujisawa sort of starts and, you know, looks. I was gonna say looks down, but Fujisawa is quite petite, I think. So perhaps they're about the same size. And she'll turn to him. Do I look like a police officer to you? And then she sort of looks down at herself and realizes that she is dressed like a man. So maybe she does.
Well, I mean, okay, maybe you're a bit short for a copper, but I know that the coppers came the other day for the figs, so I managed to get away before they could. So if you're not a copper, then what are you doing eyeing up this place?
I think the Figs knew a friend of mine. Are you an associate of theirs?
I don't know about that, but I mean, I liked them. They were always friendly. They always, you know, they're always happy to help out a fella in need of it. And I mean, so what if they put people in their pies? Maybe then people deserve to be put in pies. Did you think of that? Mrs. Fig, she was the nicest one, but I like Patrick as well. I'm the only person he ever spoke to, like, you know, a person.
Fujisawa, I think, starts to get in this urchin's face, and then his stench sort of repels her back again. And her expression sort of hardens, and she says, that is a monstrous thing you just said. People deserved to be put in pies. What if they had decided one day that you looked tasty? What if they chopped you up?
I think I'm going to ask for a information move here with presence, please.
Sure. Sorry, I was just taking a look at my personal quarters for a second.
Yeah, no worries, no problem.
There is nothing there that seems immediately helpful to me. So we'll just go ahead and roll. 7.
Sure thing. And I think he'll eye you quizzically for a moment, and say, well, miss, I mean, if we're being honest here, then he kind of looks down at himself and say, I don't reckon they get many pies out of me. But he does kind of look a little kind of taken aback, maybe that's possibly the right word. And he says, but I mean, like, honestly, you don't really think that they actually put people in pies, do you? I mean, yeah, it sounds like nonsense to me. I mean, they didn't seem like the sort to do that kind of thing. And he'll kind of say, and I mean, like Mrs. Fig, she was a regular, church type and all that. I mean, had all these Bibles and them, beads and pictures and all that religious stuff all over the place in their house. I don't. She doesn't seem like the sort who'd put a feather in a pie.
Church types can be just as strange as anyone else. And she's sort of thinking back to the crucifix that she found, and also her employer is a certain type of church type, so to speak. And what you see with people isn't always what you get. Just like sometimes you think you're buying a pork pie and you get a completely different meat altogether. I've no doubt that the figs were as kind to you as you say. That doesn't mean they weren't doing awful, terrible things behind your back.
And I think his face goes a bit pale and says, do you really think I've eaten people then?
She nods.
And I think that's the point when he kind of scurries off into an alley. With possibly some retching sounds following.
And I think this conversation has put Fujisawa off from the idea of venturing back into the Fig's Pigs pie shop alone. So I think we see her grimacing, sort of, enter back into the constant flow of people on the London sidewalks and heading back to her great house.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I think unless there was anything else that anyone wanted to get done beforehand, we'll probably move into the dusk phase now.
There is one thing I would like to do very quickly.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I think that when Fujisawa gets back to her great house, the first thing she does is make a beeline for the kitchen, where Reginald, I think, is just finishing up putting some tea and a little bit of like cake or biscuit on a saucer. And Fujisawa will say, "Thank you for getting this ready for me." And still in her men's garb, she will take the tray up to Priyanka's room, and she'll knock very softly on the door, but she's not really expecting Priyanka to answer. She's been very, low energy these past few days. And perhaps when Fujisawa opens the door, she sees that Priyanka is sleeping. So she'll just set the silver tray next to Priyanka's bed and, adjust the sheets, like make sure she's well tucked in, stroke her cheek a little bit. And the picture it gives, right, is like very much the upstanding Victorian gentleman tending to a sickly lover. And, she'll linger for a little bit. And when Priyanka doesn't stir, she'll just, leave and gingerly close the door behind her.
Yeah, and I think maybe just as you're kind of closing the door behind, you'll just get that like glimpse of those two like reflective yellow eyes peering out of the shadows of the room as you close the door.
Awesome.
Perfect. So we will go to the dusk phase. So in the dusk phase, we will have resolve any playbook moves or custom moves. So I don't think we have any ones that kick off at dusk, so we'll skip that bit. We'll have paint the scene for one of the rooms in Hargrave House. And I think tonight, let's go for the kitchen. So the kitchen existed long before the rest of the house, having been part of a pub that stood on the spot before Belgravia was redeveloped to be a residential district. What do you see that reminds you of this fact?
I have a sense that the kitchen is on the ground floor, and there is a stairwell down to the basement there, and you can see the age of the stones that make up the archway to that stairwell, and even a little bit of the old foundation going in, and you can tell that this has been here for hundreds of years. This particular archway down into the because the rest of the construction of the house is much more modern in the sense of 19th century than the rest of it. There's just an air of antiquity to that archway down into the basement.
Awesome.
And I think that The oven in the kitchen is like rather large, like much larger than one would expect for even for a house of this size, which I imagine Margaret House to be a fairly sizable place. But the oven is large enough that one could cook, for tens of people at a time, very, very efficiently, which makes Fujisawa's job easier.
Awesome. So, I think that the next thing we'll do is obviously see what you would both like to get up to this evening. So we'll start with, I'll go in reverse order this time for such as it is. Fujisawa, what do you think you'd like to get up to this evening?
Oh gosh. I think I'd like to do something with the creature of Cremorne Gardens.
Yeah. Evening is certainly
exactly what. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was going to say. I mean, evening is certainly a good time to visit Cremorne Gardens. That's when it tends to be at its busiest. There's plenty of folk around taking a stroll through the gardens and its various entertainments in the evenings. That would certainly make sense. And how about you, Lady Camila?
I guess is it possible to see? I mean, Elle, do we want to try to answer a question? Because that might impact what I might want to do tonight.
Sure.
We answer a question, we can answer during the dusk, right?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you can answer sort of essentially whenever you like. But yeah, dusk and dawn tend to be good times to do it before you get into another phase. But yeah,
because I was wondering, either trying to answer a St. Petersburg Mirror question or even a Figs Pigs question.
Yeah, we have lots of clues for Figs Pigs and 3 questions to answer.
Yeah, and each question is quite. Each question is only complexity 2 for Figs Pigs as well, so you don't necessarily need many clues to answer it.
The thing is, if we did the St. Petersburg Mirror one, we could potentially resolve the threat today. In the night phase, right?
Yeah, either way.
We only have 6. Well, we have 6 clues for St. Petersburg Mirror. So it depends on which of the questions we want to go with. Do you have a preference? I know we talked about this a little bit last time on the mirror.
Yeah. I think it would make sense if we did either the first question or the last question, because it seems like kind of the way we've engaged with the threat so far has had much more to do with Madam Sorokin and her level of power than with the blackmail ring.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily have a strong preference between the first or the third.
My memories of the conversation we had last time were that people were, in general, more interested in her actually being a psychic rather than being a purely a fraud. Yeah, but that, again, feel free to answer as you wish.
Right, that was my memory too. So like the second or the third, which I'm open to either one. It's just we only have 6 clues, so it would be cool to do the. Are we willing to like risk a flat roll?
I mean, I suppose, from a metagaming perspective as well, if at any point you're going to spend masks to bump up the success of the thing, this is the most efficient time to do it as well, because
there's only 2 of us.
There's only 2 of you. Yep.
Hey, not a bad idea. That is a good metagame tip. Yeah, because I would want her to have some power. Yeah, which the first one seems to say that she's just a fake, right?
Yeah.
Sure, let's try it then.
The third one, you mean?
Yeah, the third one.
Okay, how do you know that? Okay, so now we have to figure out how do we put these clues together.
Could I be reminded of the context for A Secret Taken to the Grave? Do we remember?
Vaguely.
Well, we
I
shouldn't
think
be restricted by the context, should we?
yeah. So I think specifically that was when Priyanka was talking to Madam Sorokin, and Madam Sorokin, I think, intimated that someone who was dead had a secret that they were holding for Priyanka, essentially. I think that was kind of the vague context of that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what that was or who that was wasn't detailed, but that was kind of the what she said, essentially.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, the design for smoke and mirror projection of ghostly images, I'm thinking that we have been on the lookout for all of that, and any contraptions like that. We know what they would look like, and we haven't seen them either in Madame Sorokin's room or when she's done seances, when she did the other seance at Lady Carla's house, I believe.
Yeah, that's fair. And you have seen quite a lot of evidence of weird shit happening around her. So
yeah, that's been a lot of weird shit.
I'm looking at this compromising photograph. I wonder if Madame Sorokin is indeed involved in the blackmail ring in some capacity. Perhaps she doesn't want to be, but like they have conscripted her knowing that she has power, and she's sort of trying to get out of this arrangement by pretending that she's not as powerful as she actually is, which might be why she's only using a small portion of her potential.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that sort of no, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, that sort of makes sense, and that again as well. I mean, which would obviously also go towards the second question, but I think would also make sense in that context because yeah, you do also know it was specifically her aunt that had that picture. So yeah, there's that possibility that she's been kind of just doing what she's doing to kind of keep her aunt happy, sort of thing.
mm-hmm.
And the evidence of embezzlement was Count Orlov. And I think maybe that embezzlement scheme was actually taken on at quite a high level. And it's kind of an indication that Madame Sorokin, has no connections in, the diplomatic corps or anything like that. So how would she have any idea of what had gone on? And yet they were indeed confirmed by Count Orlov, and that's part of why he's so convinced of her capacities. So that might be an indication of her capacities as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the broken shards of mirror, perhaps this entity that has been appearing is not like a ghost or something separate from Madame Sorokin. Perhaps it's like kind of a psychic projection or like psychic shadow of herself. And this like sort of feeling of frustration and rage and like this like trapped feeling that she has being put in this position that she doesn't want to be in with the blackmail ring is sort of manifested through this entity as well, which might account for the broken shards of mirror. It's like her letting out her rage.
Like some mirrors.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, that's cool. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, well, we might not know this, but James Hitchman, because this was one of the clues that Eloise didn't give us, but that he was involved, that James Hitchman was part of Eloise's special cult. Because I was thinking that maybe the threatening letter came from them, that they've been trying to manipulate her. But
I think again, like just to go back to the specific context, I think the threatening letter was actually to Sir Anthony, your occultist contact, basically telling him not to look into her, or he'd get roughed up, essentially.
Right. I remember.
Yeah. But yes, so no, and I think that again, sort of going on a similar theme, that could be perhaps a sign, not that they didn't, because obviously, like maybe your initial assumption might have been that she didn't want to be investigated because she didn't want to be proved a fraud, but it might be the opposite. That
makes sense. So in general, with the clues, then, because they turn out to be these phrases, but they all happen within a particular context. So we can't just riff on the phrase. We have to keep the clue within its original context, right? That's that part of what we're doing.
Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest. A bit of both. It doesn't have to be kind of
Okay.
Purely. You can kind of go. They're designed to be flexible. I think it's probably a fair way to put it. It's like
Okay. You got any idea for a secret taken to the grave, Elle?
No specific idea. Although, I mean, we do know that Priyanka's had people close to them die. So this could just be like in a very basic sense, like one proof of Madam Sorokin's power. Like she actually has, made contact with Priyanka's deceased relative.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was going to say, that feels like a fairly kind of straightforward one in some ways. And I suppose in some ways, the fact that she in some ways may have some more knowledge of certain spirits than Priyanka herself is kind of a sign that she's up there in terms of
potential.
Yeah.
Great potential. All
Awesome.
right, we got 6 then.
You want to roll, Jose?
Sure, I can try it. I haven't rolled tonight. Let's see what happens. All right. So it's a flat roll. I need 2 dice. Cross your fingers, everybody. Oh, it's an 11.
Nice. So yeah, with an 11, you are correct in your deductions, and resolving this will be fairly straightforward. If you wished, you could obviously spend marks to bump that up to a 12 plus, at which point the mastermind's hand would be revealed in this plot, but you are under no obligation to do so. But regardless, you will be able to kind of resolve this without too much difficulty, depending on your approach. But
Jose, if you want the mastermind to be involved in the resolution in some way, I am willing to work a mask here. But it's entirely up to you.
So what happens is that the mastermind is revealed to be involved in some aspect of this particular threat. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. It's also an efficient use of the masks too, because there's only 2 of us, as we said before.
Exactly.
What do you think? Should we do it?
If you're into it, I'm into it. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. I'll mark a mask. Let's see. I will mark a mask of the past.
I think I will mark the cosmic passage.
Oh,
Nice, nice. Seems an appropriate point at which to do so. Cool. So, yeah. With that said,
that's it. Yeah.
Lady Camila, I assume that you are going to be going to deal with
Have a talk.
Madam Sorokin this evening.
Yeah.
So I'll come back around to you now, Fujisawa. Do you still wish to go ahead with investigating Cremorne Gardens, or would you like to accompany Lady Camila?
That's a good question. It would be fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, obviously, if you want to go along with that, that's cool. We can do that scene together. And that will be cool. But if you do, like, from the fact that it is a you got up to a 12 plus in the end, the actual resolution of this won't be particularly challenging to do. So don't feel that you need to be there for backup kind of thing. But if you would like to be there, then that's cool.
I think I will go ahead and go to Cremorne Gardens, and if there is any trouble, I have my person Friday.
Indeed, I keep trying to. We've just never quite had the opportunity for that to come up. I'm sorry about that, because it is one of my favorite moves. It's
that's all right.
I always love those ones, but yeah, no worries. But yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Awesome. So with that, we will go to the unseen. Oh, well, we will set up the unseen anyway. And I think I think this one will be fun for this evening. We're going to go for a show at Tavistock Hall. So the first scene in this is, or the first section in this is a paint the scene one, so that will be everyone. The second is, we'll say L for that. Third, we'll go with Jose. And I'll take the fourth. So yeah, it's a show at Tavistock Hall. That's on the third column, down towards the bottom. But I've put people's things in that. And I will just quickly remind myself to make sure I'm not missing anything for the dusk phase. Yeah, no, that's cool. So we will start with our first unseen moment. So, a show at Tavistock Hall. Tavistock Hall was one of the earliest custom-built music halls in London. While the business started as a pub with sideline entertainers, they commissioned a space specifically for performances. The clientele sit at tables, cabaret style, and can drink and eat while watching a variety show. It's an affordable luxury for London's working class, and the crowd at Tavistock's is already lively as the show begins. So we'll start with the paint the scene. The audience make their way to their seats as the orchestra begins playing. Describe one of the audience members and how we can tell they have been looking forward to this evening. And And I think I will jump in with one here as well, because we're only a couple of us tonight. And I think that we see kind of a group of young men who are all dressed kind of like they're probably market porters or something similar. And they're all laughing and joking with each other as they kind of sit down at one of these tables, and they one of them pulls out a deck of cards and they start quickly dealing a quick game of something, which they play amongst themselves. And it's clear they're sort of playing, and you know the person that loses essentially has to go and buy the drinks. But as they sort of come back with a tray of drinks and set it down, as you know, they're sort of coming back as the orchestra starts to play and the curtains start to open, and there's just that moment where the drinks are sort of settled down. They all take them, but once that music starts playing, once that curtain starts rolling back, they all like fall silent as they're sort of sitting, drinking quietly and watching the performance about to begin.
I think that at one of the tables we see a woman who is approaching middle age, and she has kind of crow's feet and laugh lines that she has attempted to conceal with makeup. I think she's out on like a date of sorts with a gentleman friend who has slipped away, perhaps to get drinks. And while she waits for his return and for the show to start, she's sitting there in this puffy, like frilly dress that she's like saved up, you know, months and months of salary to afford, just to be able to like come out and show off tonight. She's gone a little bit overboard with the makeup, she thinks, and she keeps getting out her pocket mirror and like checking her complexion nervously, just for reassurance that she looks good, that, you know, all the effort she's put into this night is going to pay off.
And I see a table towards the very front near the stage with two young women who are giggling hysterically, and they're pointing to the program for the evening's entertainment. And there is a picture of one of the singers who's kind of a heartthrob. And they are fangirls of this particular heartthrob. And they're kind of fanning themselves as they do their fangirl squeeze the thought that they were going to get to see this man perform live in front of them, just 10 feet away.
Awesome. I like that. Thank you very much. I think we will start. I think we'll start with Cremorne Gardens, as we have not yet seen Cremorne Gardens itself. So the Cremorne Gardens, as I said, it's a big pleasure gardens down by the River Thames in Chelsea. It's lit by, you know, gas lights. There's various pavilions and halls of where entertainments are had. There's sort of again lights spilling out from all of them, sound of music and laughter and drinking and all this sort of thing going on all around. Yeah, that's what it was. I'll kind of give a quick overview of the various places that are sort of around here in the gardens itself. So there's a dancing platform, which is a large pagoda where there's, you know, lots of people dancing. It's crowded and there's loud music and revelry sort of coming from there. There's an American bowling saloon. There is a big banqueting hall where there's food and drink available. Obviously, there's sort of the lawns themselves where you can kind of walk around. The sort of the flower beds and the trees and all of that, which is those are kind of older. Where this is obviously an established park before the place itself was built up. There's also a hedge maze that's part of the gardens, and there's sort of various like sideshow type events as well going on. The place itself is on Cheney Walk, where you are also aware that that's where sort of the creature has been spotted as well, sort of, which is again the street sort of along the river. This is a kind of a bit of a bohemian area where there's sort of lots of artists and the like hang out here, and people who are kind of taking a break from the bustle of the gardens tend to sort of walk along here and find somewhere discreet, perhaps if they're with company, to while away the evening. But yeah, so that's kind of what's on offer as you arrive at Cremorne Gardens, Fujisawa.
Excellent. I think that when we see Fujisawa, she is kind of underneath one of the sort of like outdoor like street lamps that they have set up, and she is looking at herself in her pocket mirror. The glass is sort of cloudy and tarnished, but she is just making sure that she looks her best, because there's a chance she might run into this old flame of hers. She's not looking to, but there's always that chance. And I think there's a moment as she's looking into this mirror where we see almost as though there's like someone standing right behind Fujisawa. There's sort of like a kind of double vision effect, where it looks like Fujisawa's face is doubled, except that this like other reflection has a mole above her upper lip. And but we only see that for a split second before Fujisawa snaps the compact mirror closed and places it into the pocket of her trousers. She has not changed since this morning. And I think she will set off kind of to walk along the river with the other people who are like sort of promenading, probably all in couples, and Fujisawa is one of the few who's walking alone. And I think for now she's just looking out onto the water, not necessarily expecting to find a glimpse of anything, but sort of just taking the lay of the land.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'm going to ask you to make the information move. And I feel like this probably is going to be with sensitivity because it feels like you're just kind of trying to get that general vibe of the place rather than anything specific. So yeah, and we'll see how that goes.
Sure. Nine.
9, excellent. We'll come back to that in a moment. Lady Camila, I presume you're going to visit Madam Sorokin at her house, but let me know if that is different.
I'd actually like to invite Madam Sorokin to Hargrave House, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's cool.
So I had a message sent to Madam Sorokin for asking for a private session at Hargrave House, and including the coin in with the message that would pay her fee.
Yeah, absolutely. In which case, yeah, I think you will be at the at Hargrave House when Madam Sorokin arrives. She will be accompanied by Miss Tanner, who will, will sort of just be along, sort of bringing her things, as it were, and they will have brought the mirror with them, because obviously that's kind of part of the whole thing that they do. Miss Tanner will be kind of, and it's like relatively big, but it's not like too unwieldy. But she will she'll say, good evening, Lady Camila. It's good to see you again. Where would you like me to get this set up? And I'll get Madam Sorokin situated for you, and then we can begin.
Of course. Reginald will show you into the salon where we will be having the session. Once that's all set up, you may withdraw. Reginald will take you someplace where you can wait while the session goes on with Madam Sorokin. I will require privacy for that.
Of course, Lady Camila. We quite understand. And yeah, she will kind of bustle off to get sorted out.
And Lady Camila says to Madam Sorokin, "Welcome to Hargrave House, Madam Sorokin. And perhaps while the servants ready the space for us, I can show you around a little bit." And so she's going to take her into the conservatory. We've explored that room already. And then Lady Camila asked Madam Sorokin, wait, I'm blanking. One second.
That's okay.
I think some food has been set up there ahead of time, some snacks or something, and she invites her to sit down on the couch and says, "This is an important part of Hargrave House, and I do wonder, outside of a formal reading, what your impression is of the house so far, of what you've seen, because maybe we've walked through a few rooms in the downstairs."
And I think she'll say, it is, I can feel the history of this place. It is truly a house that has been through many changes in its time. I can feel that this place is close to you, Lady Camila, she says. But even as she's saying that, you can tell that she is on edge. She is clearly kind of, her eyes are kind of darting around a bit more than she should. She's clearly trying to put on a kind of calm and collected front, but yeah, she's very
Disturbed,
nervous and disturbed here. Yeah.
And yes, this house is built on great foundations, just as our empire is. It is lovely to have someone like you. Immigrants are a great addition to English society. Has it been an easy transition for you moving to England from your homeland? Have you felt welcome?
I feel these days like London is my home, Lady Camila.
Well put. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. It's important for immigrants to feel at home here and to feel committed to the crown, to the country, to this society. We are lucky to have you, Madam Sorokin. She's trying to put her a little bit at ease. She's not. Lady Camilla is not sure what is the nature of Madam Sorokin's discomfort at the moment, but she's trying to put her a little bit at ease.
Excellent.
And I think at that point, maybe they come in and say that the room is ready.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
And, if you want.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say, and I think we'll take a quick break there.
Okay.
So if people want to come back, call it 10 past, and we'll pick up there.
Perfect.
Okay, brilliant. We will kick off with our next unseen. And I'll just remind myself both who I send that to and what it is. Okay, yes. L. Parson Clapp is a larger-than-life caricature of a rural clergyman, performed by a male impersonator in a comical bit with jokes and bawdy songs. How does the act poke fun at the establishment?
I think that this act, it finishes with a song that's like it's clearly very popular with the audience. Like when the first strains of the melody start to play, the audience sitting at the cabaret tables sort of like start hooping and hollering. They're going wild for this. And the song, sung by this male impersonator, is about dedicating your deeds and your wallet to the church and how that will make you happy as a pig in mud. And the rhyme scheme of the song, I think, suggests that the line should actually be happy as a pig in shit. But the performer, kind of makes a show of keeping the song clean as a clergyman would, and pulls an exaggerated face every time they get to the end of that line. And I think as the act goes on and Parson Clapp is singing more and more animatedly, in contrast to this upbeat music, there are other actors who make their way onto the stage in these like tattered clothes with mud on their faces, looking absolutely miserable and abject as they reluctantly toss coins and banknotes toward the parson, who is like grinning ear to ear and catching up them all. And I think in the final like third of the act, the person starts to undergo a transformation of sorts. The actor first puts on a pig nose and then affixes little pig ears to their head, and then finally like a curly little tail. And by the time the curtain's closing on the act, we're seeing Parson Clapp at the center of the stage, rolling around in this pile of money, squealing with delight, his clothing completely spotless, and his pockets full of gold.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Back at Hargrave House. You will you and Madam Sorokin will enter the salon, which has been kind of set up in readiness for your meeting. There's obviously the mirror has been laid out on the table. There's probably a pot of tea and the like as well set up. And yeah, Madam Sorokin will kind of take her seat and wait for you to do the same.
Lady Camila sits down directly across from Madam Sorokin with the mirror between them, I assume, on the table.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Madam Sorokin will say, "So, Lady Camila, is there anything you are hoping to learn from our reading tonight? Any questions you have? Any thoughts about your past or your future that I can help you with?"
I do. I have a question. My question, Madam Sorokin, is why does a woman of your obvious gifts languish in that dreary East London flat, letting your fate be dictated by petty interests? Surely you have greater ambitions than to be a common fortune teller, consoling grieving widows, finding lost cats and wayward family members. Such things are beneath your dignity. Have you not dreamed of something more?
I suppose my life has been more interesting and more fortunate than I had ever dreamed as a young girl. So I have been content, you could say, with where I am.
But imagine, if you would, what it would be like to be among like-minded associates, involved in exploring supernatural occurrences of great consequence to the crown, to the state. To be in such a rich environment, such as Hargrave House. How you might bloom. No worries about petty concerns like money. We have the resources here to keep you happy in all those regards, and also to allow you the freedom to explore your interests and access the great resources of this establishment. What makes you hesitate, I wonder?
I suppose I've never thought about that. I mean, I've always felt these things since I was a girl, and my aunt, that is to say, Miss Tanner has always guided me and helped me to understand how I could best deploy my talents.
Miss Tanner has no doubt been a good friend to you, but her capacities in the realm of the supernatural are clearly limited. Perhaps it is time to grow in different ways, Madam Sorokin. Miss Belacqua, who you've met, is deeply gifted and here at Hargrave House. And we have many other associates that could help you explore your true potential. I am making you an offer. Will you go back walk out the door to your previous existence? Or will you embrace a new adventure? Here, serving your new queen and country.
And I think she will kind of look down at the table at her own hands. And we'll cut back over to Fujisawa as you are stood on the banks of the Thames. You will you'll be looking out over the river when you see a figure out on the waves. It looks probably like a woman. It's that odd thing where it's like, it's difficult to tell whether it's just the moonlight, but they have a kind of almost like a glow to them. They're very pale, like that. So it was like, yes, it's like glow to them out, like out in the middle of the river, out in the middle of the current. And they appear to be struggling against the water, as if they're being sucked under by the undertow. And as you're looking out, you'll hear a voice from behind you. As a man will say, even then, I hope I'm not intruding, but most folk out here tend to come in couples, and I noticed you were on your own. Are you waiting for anyone? And there is a man. He's dressed kind of in, a fairly like a loose kind of smock over sort of his clothes underneath. There is like splats of paint at his wrists and on his on the front of his smock. He's got kind of a paintbrush in one hand as he offers you a short bow. He's got like a big head of curly hair, and he's kind of handsome in a sort of rakish way. And as you look back out at the river, the figure that was there has disappeared. So the clue that you have is an apparition of a drowned woman, and I will add that to the list in a second.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Fujisawa was like if there was like a pier or a dock or something kind of jutting out over the water, she would have been sort of drifting toward the edge of it, trying to see whether this thing that she was seeing is really there or not. It wouldn't be the first time that she saw something that turned out not to be there in reality. But she'll turn to this person once the apparition seems to have vanished. And she says, "There was a woman out there in the water just now. Did you see her?"
And he will kind of peer off and say, I can't say as I noticed anyone. Are you sure? I mean, we can see if we can get someone, take a boat out, see if if someone's out there. I'm pretty sure they'll need a rescue.
No, it's all right. Never mind that. And to answer your question, yes, I'm alone.
Not
What kind
being.
of accent is that?
Oh, I'm from the United States of America. I'm from Massachusetts. You don't look like you're from around these parts yourself. If apologies if that comes across as what's the word he's looking for? Not to. I mean, not to. Not that I have a problem with that. You understand? Just you don't see many folks from the Far East, certainly not around this end of London.
Well, then, lucky you. You're having a rare sighting. Do
Sorry.
you work at the park?
No, he'll point back to sort of an easel that's set up. I was just out here doing a bit of painting of the lights over the river. I guess you could say I'm an artist. I've certainly been called worse things in my time, but the name's Whistler, James Whistler. Pleasure to meet you.
Fujisawa. Lovely to meet you too. And I think she'll kind of backtrack towards the easel to like check out his painting. Not that she's an expert, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think you'll see it's quite a dark picture being painted at night, but it's got kind of like big like reflections of the lights in the River Thames and that sort of against the darkness of the water and the sky and the kind of the lights of the city in the background kind of thing. I'll say, so are you here to take a walk around the gardens?
Yes, I've been fascinated lately by the stories I'm hearing about the so-called creature. I suppose I was looking out into the water foolishly to try to catch a glimpse.
And I think I'll ask you to make the information move here, please, with presence, I think.
That sounds okay. $11.
Excellent. So we will go to our next unseen. So Jose, the Old Witch Amazons are a pair of twin sisters who have devoted themselves to athletics and bodybuilding. What feats of strength and endurance do we see them perform, and how do we see they take pride in their bodies?
So I imagine the Aldwych Amazons come out in these I think they come out wrapped in these robes that are kind of in a Grecian style. But as they begin doing some acrobatics, they shed the robes and come, and underneath are these very form-fitting unitards that show off their figures in ways that are not normally seen in Victorian society. And then there are two poles that come down from the ceiling and attach onto the stage. And the Amazons, each one mounts one of the poles and begins, and they begin doing a pole dance kind of routine that involves them swinging around the poles in these kind of simultaneous circles that involves a lot of strength and then holding positions that kind of mirror one another so that there's a double vision effect. And then beginning the motion again, and the crowds cheering. They cheer when they first remove their robes, of course, but then they cheer and gasp at some of the acrobatics on the poles. And until they finally do a simultaneous dismount that lands them standing right next to each other, facing one another, again with the double vision effect. And the crowd goes crazy.
Awesome, awesome. And back at Hargrove House, I think, yeah, Madam Sorokin is looking down at the table, and she kind of looks up, and I think she will remove, she usually wears this kind of big like headdress and with the sort of veil down the front of it, and she's going to kind of take it off and put it on the table in front of her. You'll see sort of as she does. I mean, she's kind of she's quite pretty. Maybe not necessarily, maybe not younger than you expected, but she's certainly quite young. She's got that kind of waifish look and sort of long blonde hair under the headscarves, and she says, "Will you look after Aunt Elsie as well? She's been good to me these years. We've always shared what we have, and I wouldn't want to leave her out in the cold."
Of course, my dear. Family and loyalty are most important in this life. As you step forward into your greater role, she will be well taken care of. And
oh, sorry. Yeah, no, you go ahead. No, that's fine.
And Lady Camila looks down at the headdress, and she just indicates it. Well, these kinds of affectations will be a thing of the past for you. You will be in search of the truth now, not needing any theatrics.
I never liked all the lies and all the tricks, but Aunt Elsie always said that no one would pay good money to have their fortune told by a grocer's daughter from the East End.
We recognize you as a true spiritual seeker in search of the truth, not a common fortune teller. Now is the time to step into your power, my dear. Show us your true beauty and potential. And she reaches out her hand to Madam Sorokin.
Yeah, and she will take it slightly tentatively, but she will take it. So, I suppose, Lady Camila, my name's Sarah. Sarah Tanner. It's Nice to meet you properly, I suppose.
Good to meet you, Sarah. Properly. And I
Sorry.
think we could close there.
Yeah, no, I was
Unless
going to
there's
say
something else.
yeah, no. I think that's we'll have one last moment. I think with you momentarily, but yes, we'll go back to Fujisawa. So yeah, Fujisawa. James will say, well, I've suddenly heard talk about this creature. I can't say as I've given it all that much credence. I mean, I've certainly heard some tales of mermaids and that in my time. I've traveled pretty far around the here and there, but creature, I don't know. What I do know is people seem to be pretty spooked, but at the same time, I mean, there's always so many people spilling out here, drunk and disorderly, and scrapping and all that sort of thing going on out here. That it could be anything. Truth be told, maybe just a few drunks think they saw something they didn't see. Someone got in a fight they didn't want to blame on a friend. Anything like that. Maybe it's more, but I don't know. I don't know that I put any weight behind that. But yeah, so the clue you'll get there is reports of drunken disorderly behavior.
Yeah, I think Fujisawa is kind of nodding along as James is saying this. Like she knows how people can be, especially remembering what it was like to work at the gardens. Seemed like there was a fight every night. So I think she says, I suppose you're right. If there's one thing I've learned about London society since being here, it's that these people do love to exaggerate. And she'll, I think, take another look at the painting that he's been working on, kind of an appraising look, like she's comparing it with the actual the moon over the water. And she does this little kind of shrug, like, oh, that's pretty good. And so I think she'll say, well, never mind the creature. Do you do portraits?
I've been known to do a few in my time. Certainly, I appreciate human subjects. Certainly, you interested in sitting for some time?
Yes, I think I would like that.
Well, I'm, and he'll kind of point down the street a little. I'm in one of the houses here, sharing the place with a few like-minded souls, you could say. So, if you do want to drop around any time, I mean, I ain't big on formality and all that, so just pop in and let me know.
I think I appreciate that about you, James. And thank you. I should be clear, I don't have the money to pay you right now. Although I hope that will change soon. Perhaps I could do a favor, a sort of exchange.
I'm sure we can work something out. And he will give kind of a rakish grin.
Fujisawa also grins, and we see a hint of the same kind of glint we saw in her eye at the boxing match. I think we can leave it there.
Yeah, awesome. So I will write our final unseen. So Sartini the Superlative is an illusionist whose performances inspire wonder in the audience. What about his act demonstrates he may have some real knowledge of mystical traditions? So I think we see Sartini do the usual kind of routine of sawing the woman in half and putting swords through the box and the usual kind of big ticket illusions. But I think the thing that someone who was cognoscenti might realize is that some of the incantations he makes are in actual sort of ancient tongues. There's perhaps some similarities between this and what we've seen Priyanka used in the past, and some of the paintings on his props and on his big flowing robes have some sort of true mystical sigils worked into them amongst all the the sort of the flummery, and maybe his actual performance is purely based on sort of illusion. This is perhaps somebody who knows a little more about what's going on in the world than may at first seem. So I think as Sarah and her aunt head back to their place to kind of gather their things, we see kind of the cab pull off.
Yeah, and Lady Camila has come down to see her Sarah because Sarah's still a little shaky, and so Lady Camila came down to see her into the cab, and the cab pulls away, and Lady Camila is on the street there in front of Hargrave House.
Yeah, and as that cab pulls away, another pulls up, and we see the figure of Lord Falkenberg hop down from the cab. He will tip his hat towards you, Lady Camila, as he kind of watches the other cab head away.
Good evening, Lord Falkenberg.
Lady Camila, good to see you again. Was that by any chance young Sarah Tanner who just made her exit?
Why, yes, the poor girl had been led astray, I think, by some less than healthy influences in our society. But I think I've put her back on the right track now.
I have no doubt you've put her on a track, Lady Camila. Whether it's the right one, well, I suppose that well, just have to be seen, won't it? I
Well,
had
my
rather,
track any wealth.
indeed. I had rather hoped to engage the services of the young lady myself. A truly unique talent she had, but, well, I
She will
suppose
be
unless
quite
you're willing to share.
well, Lucien. No one ever called me greedy. Well, maybe some did, but but she will be busy with Hargrave House obligations, no doubt. But if there is some free time, I will send her your way. I'm sure you have many questions that you'd like explored. Your fortune told, for instance.
Indeed, I like to think I have a fairly good grasp on what the future holds for me, but one can never be too prepared.
Forewarned is forearmed, they say.
Indeed, they do. Indeed, they do. Well, I appear to have been beaten to the punch on this one, as it were, but, well, as talented a young thing as she was, I am sure there will be others.
No doubt. London is full of talent.
Mm.
Until we next meet, yes?
Speaking of, Francis did speak glowingly of you last night. You seem to have made quite an impression on the young thing.
Francis the Fawn. Such a delightful young man. I should have known that you would have had an association with him. He seems your type, Lucien.
I have painted him a couple of times. It's true.
Such a lovely face. I would love to see those paintings sometime, Lucien, if you'd be willing to share them, since we both have a fondness for the boy.
Perhaps you'll have to pop around to Erie House one day. My mother, I'm sure, will be happy to see you once again.
Yes, it's been much too long.
Well,
lovely to run into you, Lucien, so unexpectedly.
indeed. I suppose I shouldn't keep my cab waiting, so I shall let you retire for the evening and get your beauty sleep, and I will, I am sure, speak to you before too long.
Lovely to see you, as always. Good evening, my lord. And she turns and walks up the steps of Hargrave House without looking back.
Excellent.
She did get a win.
Awesome. Was there any last moments you wanted to have Fujisawa before we wrap for the evening?
No, I think I'm good.
Awesome. So yeah, with that, we will wind up our evening phase and we will move, night phase rather, and we will move into the dawn. So we will collect rewards if a threat was resolved, which it was. And we'll kind of check in with the others what they want to pick up next time as well. So for the St. Petersburg Mirror, and I will probably copy these in a moment. The rewards available are blackmail on an influential figure. You may describe it and add it to your personal quarters. Madam Sorokin becomes a recurring side character. You get 1 extra clue on the information move when you seek her counsel about spiritualism and dark secrets. Edwin Belmont becomes a recurring side character. You gain 1 extra clue on the information move when you seek his counsel about the government or foreign affairs. There are 2 instances of a memento from the investigation, whereby, again, as ever, you can ask another hunter what that is and add it to your personal quarters. And finally, the St. Petersburg Mirror, which you will add to your personal quarters if you choose that. It does have some additional mechanical rules about what happens when you use it that we'll kind of get into more if someone picks that. But yeah, for the purposes of picking it as a reward, it's just you can add it to your personal quarters like another one. Yeah, Lady Camila, is there one of those that you would like to pick?
I know as a group we wanted the St. Petersburg Mirror, but it probably makes sense for someone with high sensitivity to be the one who puts it in their quarters. Does that make sense?
Yep, sure thing.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be Lady Camila.
I have a feeling Priyanka's going to want that one.
Yes, I assume Priyanka will want it. So we could save it for her, for them. Okay, then. The first one was
the first one is blackmail. So it's essentially just a personal quarters item, but it's blackmail on an influential figure.
Oh, that's going to be an Eloise thing, I think. I'll make Sarah Tanner a recurring character.
Yeah, awesome. Oh yeah, no, we'll paste these and just. Oh, actually, did I already do that? I may have done. Are we in the threats?
I was kind of eyeing the blackmail, but I'm also, if Alois does want that one, I'm perfectly happy to give it to him and to take a memento instead.
Sure. I mean, in all honesty, if you want to take the blackmail, that's fine, and we can check in with Eloise next time, because there will almost certainly be, even if they just take a memento, that we can flavor it in as something similar. So if you're interested in that, then that's cool.
Awesome. I don't have a specific idea yet for who it's on.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, you don't necessarily need to define a person that it's on. It can just be a kind of what sort of thing you find, and then that can be applied as and when you need to.
What horrible thing they did.
Yeah.
Then you can apply it to whoever you want.
I think in keeping with the theme of or one of the themes of this session, I'll say it's proof of embezzlement.
I thought it was going to be pig related.
Excellent. Yes, so that's our rewards, and as I said, we'll check in with the others at the beginning of next session for their rewards as well. I will also mark the the obligatory questions that were for them too. So yeah, the first 2 questions on here, as ever, are: did the hunters answer a question, which is yes, and did the hunters resolve a threat, which is also a yes. And I'll take those ones off on the other 2. Cool. And
just have to say, sorry to interrupt you, but I just had a flash with the pigs on and the blackmail on the first episode of Black Mirror.
Yes,
you've never seen it.
Indeed.
Okay, sorry, I just had to.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of as well. No worries.
Also, Penny Dreadful adjacent, as it's what's it? The thing. Is it Rory Kinnear? Someone Kinnear, anyway. I forget his first name.
Yes, Rory Kinnear. Yeah.
Awesome. So yes, Lady Camila, did you experience an echo in the night?
Yeah, I echoed the double vision effect from Elle's scene in the unseen.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I like that. That was awesome. did you have?
Julian, yes.
Yeah, you did indeed have a face-to-face encounter with the mastermind. And did you deliver a chilling, dead-eyed monologue about the horrors of the world?
I think I tried to at the fight.
Yeah, no, I definitely picked up on that. That was cool. Thank you very much. And Fujisawa, did you experience an echo in the night?
I did with the patron with the pocket mirror and Fujisawa looking into her pocket mirror.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Yeah, no, that was awesome. Did you have a scene showing your secret private life in London?
I think I had a few.
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely felt quite like in fact, yeah, most of the session felt like it was more on the
revealing
yeah.
for Fujisawa this time.
Yeah. Awesome. And yeah, did you subtly express sexual desire for your employer in the way you dressed them or served them?
I think when I checked in on Priyanka while they were, recovering.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that one. Yeah, that's cool. Awesome. So
should I do Memories Servant now?
Oh yes, indeed. Yep, you can do that now.
I think I'm just going to take James Whistler's unfinished painting of
Cool.
the water, and I'll keep it for myself.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. And other than that, I think we do Lady Camila, if you want to do your Mask of the Past now, you may do so, or we can pick it up next time. That's either way is cool.
Let me see. Mask of the Past. Let me see what I've got here. Oh, because we both took Masks of the Past, right? Oh no, you didn't. You took the other mask.
Yeah, I marked the Cosmic Passage, so I don't have to narrate anything.
Sure, I can go ahead and do it.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So this one is narrate a flashback that shows your friendship with the explorer. What kind of relationship was it? Parent and child, teacher and pupil, master and servant. Okay, so this is from the perspective of the girl. After her initial visit to my village, when she returned again the following year, Lady Camila had a hut built somewhat apart from the main village. It was cool and dark and protected from the worst of the heat by the shade of a nearby cliff. I remember the constant sound of a small stream that ran right by the hut. We would return from excursions into the rainforest with a large assortment of plant samples, and Lady Camila would be intent on cataloging them and placing them in these sealable glass vials that she'd brought with her from England. She asked me to help her with this work because I had learned much plant knowledge from my grandmother before she passed. And as we worked side by side, Lady Camila would ask me questions about the lore of each plant, and I would answer to the best of my ability. I wanted so much to please her and to prove myself worthy of her attention. I felt special in her presence. And in the pauses between our work, she slowly taught me to read and write English. When she would leave us for a few months to return to Georgetown with a load of samples, she would instruct me to write down in a large notebook she had brought me as much of the plant knowledge as I could collect from the women of our village and the neighboring ones. But she also encouraged me to include my own thoughts, something no one had ever asked about. And she would always read them carefully when she returned and asked me questions. Questions that challenged me to be more precise in my observations and to think more deeply about the things I was considering. As I became more comfortable with her, I would ask her about her world across the ocean, and she would smile at my curiosity and spin tales of the great city of London and all its wonders. And one time she brought me a gift, a book of Grimm's fairy tales that had beautiful illustrations. I would fall asleep at night imagining myself in those magical places. To me, Lady Camila was like a fairy godmother in Cinderella, promising to recognize my true potential and transport me to a new world full of magic and infinite possibilities.
Awesome. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. And that is where we will leave things for this evening. So thank you very much, everyone. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to stop our recording now.